we did have a whole stack of episodes stacked up, and now we're kind of out of those. And
well, that's kind of funny you mentioned that, because I mean, you and I were supposed to go to Mexico on a joint vacation with our wives. And so we said, you know what? We don't want to worry about this podcast thing while we're down there. We might record an episode while we're down there, but we don't want to worry about it. So let's record half a dozen or more. We had more than that, I think, episodes in advance, have them all in the library waiting to release on schedule, and let's go enjoy ourselves in Mexico and not be worried about coming back and having to schedule podcasts and stuff. And then came coronavirus. So anyway, so we have been releasing those episodes. We obviously were not able to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
We had to cancel our vacation, and we're sequestered just like everybody else. And we've been releasing those episodes on a regular basis. I'm sure everybody's been like, what the heck? It sounds like they're going places and doing stuff. But though that was all done before Corona hit.
Welcome to another trip down the Bourbon Road with your hosts, Jim and Mike. So grab a glass of your favorite bourbon and kick back.
We would like to thank Tommy and Gwen Mitchell from Logheads Home Center for supporting this episode of the Bourbon Road. Find out more about their fine rustic furniture at logheadshomecenter.com. Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Shannon.
I'm Mike Hyatt.
And this is the Bourbon Road. And Mike, we are 1 year old today. Well, not today.
Yeah, happy anniversary, I guess.
Happy anniversary. Absolutely.
There's a lot of shows.
It is. It is. We don't have exactly 52 episodes. I think we've got, I don't know exactly what we just released 56, I think, wasn't it?
A couple extra episodes there, here and there.
We threw a bonus in, a couple bonuses in.
Yeah, I think that was some nice stuff. So today to celebrate, we got a whole lineup of Knob Creek bottles.
That's right. So today is Day by the Creek, Knob Creek to be exact, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times you say Jephthah Bend Creek, but today it's Knob Creek.
Knob Creek. We're going to drink some Knob Creek. Yeah.
We got, how many bottles do we have? We got 7 bottles of Knob Creek.
We got six bottles of Knob Creek. We're going to take in, we're going to drink 3 on the first pour, micro pours. And then 3 on the second half of the show. I thought that'd be nice. Then we got a couple of nice bottles in there too.
Yeah.
Two really nice bottles that probably can't find too often. So
yeah,
some of them are just standard Knob Creek bottles and stuff. But the first one we were starting out with is the Knob Creek small batch 100 proof.
So Mike, what do you think about Knob Creek? I mean, you've had a few in your collection from time to time. You've opened a few. What's your general thoughts on Knob Creek? Is it a go-to for you? It's
not a go-to. That's a guest pour right there. Somebody that likes something spicier, a little pepperier. That I don't know their mash bill, but I would think some of them are high rye.
Yeah, I don't know if it's high rye, but it's definitely got a little more barrel spice to it. Knob Creeks have a lot of barrel influence.
Yeah, and isn't that Jim Beam's kind of thing that have more spice to it? They don't do a whole lot of weeded bourbons. None of these are weeded bourbons. So that's not what they're known for. They're known for that spice. And this is right up your alley. I'm always pushing you to drink weeded whiskey. So today's, it's really your anniversary. You're the founder of the Bourbon Road. And, this is your brainchild, I guess. Is that what you would?
Yeah. Maybe my brainchild, but I certainly haven't done it alone. Between you and Randy, you guys have really carried the load. This has been an absolute pleasure. And Knob Creek's good. It's a good choice today because it's something that I'm happy to order at any bar I go to. I can order it straight. I can order it mixed in. I like their rye. I like their cast strength. It's high proof at 120, right? Or you can get it at 100.
Yeah.
And so it's good stuff. I like the heavy barrel influence from these guys. I think that the profile fits me real well. If you've got a sweet tooth and you're a weeder kind of guy, Knob Creek's not your thing.
I think it depends. We'll see how that. We got a 12-year there that I'm hoping it tastes like candy. I'm hoping. I got hope for that bottle.
Oh, the ryes are a little sweet, so we got a couple of ryes in here too.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good expression, and to tell people what we think. We always say, hey, we're not bourbon experts or whiskey experts. We're just bourbon bullshitters or whiskey bullshitters, and we tell it like it is. We tell people it's your bourbon your way, and that's just how it is. So we're going to drink through 3 of these to start with, and then 3 on the second half. But we thought we would talk about this past year and some of our favorite things that we got to do over the past year, some of our favorite guests, favorite distilleries, and even favorite bourbons that we've got to drink, or new expressions that we hadn't had before. And I think we both got those in our thing. Let's start on this though.
All right. So first I'd like to take this first bourbon we're drinking here. This is the Knob Creek. This is the standard, right? This is the 100 proof Knob Creek standard on the shelf bourbon. Typically, I guess this is around a 9-year bourbon, right?
On the bottle I have, you were talking about that they had taken the age statements off and then they put them back on, and, trying to, I guess, figure out marketing, what works with marketing. And maybe they're listening to what people are saying, because people are kind of upset when they took those age statements off there. Yeah. They want to know how old the whiskey they're drinking is.
Right.
So, and even some of them ryes, it'll tell you the barreled date. It'll tell you so you got to figure it out for yourself, I guess.
Right. Well, let's cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to the Bourbon Road. Cheers, Randy. I know you're out there listening. We appreciated your contribution to the Bourbon Road for the first 18 episodes. And I hope you're listening. And if you are, raise a glass with us.
Yeah. Cheers, Randy. You're a lot more beautiful than me. You got that slick back, long blonde hair up there in the mountain, like John Denver, just letting it flow right now.
All right. So Mike, I'm nosing this and tasting it. Yeah. So like with most Knob Creeks, I get that woody, nutty, barrel influence. But it's got a little bit of sweetness on the nose, I think.
Just a tad bit more, to me, more oaky, more oak in it.
But you get that pepper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that pepper kind of presents itself. And it's not really drying on the palate at all. I think for 100 proof, it drinks very smooth for me. It might bite a little bit for you, but for me, it drinks really smooth.
I think that first pour of it today was it was a little spicy, but after that first couple sips on it, it's this ain't my everyday drinker. Like I said, it's more of my something to have for a guest on the shelf. If somebody comes over and they say, hey, do you got any Knob Creek? Yeah, I got some Knob Creek for you. Here you go. Let's get you a pour of this. Or especially if I saw a 12-year or something, I was like, I pull something off the shelf like that for somebody, they're going to be like, oh man, you got me something special. So yeah,
a little bit of brown sugar, heavy oak influence, some black pepper. It's got a little bit of a bite to it. It's got a decent finish. I mean, a really good finish for 100 proofer, I think. It's one of my favorites.
This Knob Creek is
Knob Creek in general as a line of, like a profile.
Sure.
Yeah. I like Knob Creek profile a lot.
I can see that with you, like Wild Turkey,
Knob Creek. Yeah. They're very similar in some ways.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't, that's never going to be my go-to. And, people have said, oh, you're going to become a rye whiskey drinker, and probably not. I like it. If I probably would mix this more than I would just sit and sip it.
Yeah.
Making a whiskey sour or a whiskey old fashioned, or even a Kentucky mule. Put that little bit of spice in that Kentucky mule. I could do that.
Yeah. So what other bourbons do you think kind of form that core profile that you like?
Well, of course, Weller's. You have Weller's out there and stuff. And now that Wilderness Trail had come out with their wheated bourbon, I like that. It's just all wheated pretty much. But there are some bourbons, and I'll probably surprise you, the favorite bourbon that I got to drink this year. If somebody's going to, I guess that's my core profile, is just a wheated bourbon. I want to try it every bit I can get.
You want that softer up front, a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah. To some people's surprise, I don't have any Pappies in my house. I'm just not lucky enough to ever to spend time to go get a bottle, and I'm not going to pay $2,000 for a bottle either. I just don't have that kind of cash. So I can't afford that. So I just don't have a bottle on it. But I got other bottles of weeded bourbon, as you know, and I really do like those. And, but I'll drink other stuff up there on the shelf. Rebel Yell.
Well, you are the self-proclaimed weeded bourbon. What is it?
Weeded Bourbon King of Kentucky.
Somebody called you out. Oh, yeah. Jackie Zykin called you out on that.
That's all right. That's a good person to get called out by. Yeah, I want to educate myself in those bourbons as much as possible so I'll know more about them. And I know those profiles, and some of them are a little bit different. Rebel Yell to me is a different profile than Weller. And some of those, they're high. Some of them are high proof. So Bluegrass had a really great weeded bourbon that we tried, and I liked. We went up to Indiana and went to Hotel Tango, and they had their weeded bourbon. It was really good. So I'm getting there. A weeded Tennessee whiskey from Nelson Greenbrier, which I was totally shocked by, and I think we both enjoyed that and stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for in a bourbon. But whenever it's just a standard bourbon or rye bourbon, I'm probably looking at Old Forester. Woodford. I do drink a lot of Woodford. Man, I never thought about that. I have a whole bunch of their bottles.
Do you like that Brown Foreman profile?
Probably, and I'll drink some Wild Turkey too. Wild Turkey to me is a good bottle to mix with. Yeah. I mean, heck, who doesn't have some good whiskey?
Yeah.
I think we've shown that we will drink from the very bottom shelf all the way to that top shelf, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we both have our standard, I guess, where our flat line. Is that what you'd call it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the term is for that.
Well, while I'm pouring this, tell me pour our next pour here, and I'll tell you what it is after I pour it. What was your favorite place when you through this whole year? What was your favorite distillery to go to?
Oh, it's we've been to so many, and they're all so hospitable, and I have to give a shout out to all of them for inviting us in and certainly giving us a great interview. But I think I had probably my best experience in general. It's kind of a toss up between two for me. It's between Wilderness Trail and Peerless. I think I had a great time at both those places. I think I like what they're doing. They were extremely hospitable and treated us like family in both places. Not to say that the other places we weren't as great. I mean, Nelson's Greenbrier was awesome. Woodford was good. Angel's Envy and Old Forester and just, all the places we went. I mean, I don't know how many distilleries we've been to in the last year. It's more than I can count on fingers and toes, but it was probably those two that I just felt like I got the best experience out of.
And I could see that from you because you're more of a engineering technical in both of those places. They really took us inside the technical and inner workings of the distillery, the piping and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, when you get Pat Heist and Shane Baker on one hand talking tech, and then you get Caleb Kilburn talking tech, and they're both talking yeast and fermentation and barrel aging and all those technical terms about their stills and everything. I eat that stuff up. Now I can see your eyes getting heavy and your head bobbing a little bit when they.
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't those two distilleries that, even though I have a fondness for Wilderness Trail, that those guys treated us like I was their brother out there. So Shane and Pat, if you're listening, I got to say thank you for just opening your house up to us. But probably the two places I loved the most was Leaper's Fork Distillery. Those guys are they're number one in my book. Beautiful distillery, small. It just kind of all flowed and stuff.
And you guys are kind of cut from the same cloth. You kind of really gelled. Right? Yeah. And Bluegrass Distillers, for being what they are, they're so tiny.
And I kind of already had in my mind when I found out that Sam Rock was a lawyer, I had this idea in my mind what he was going to be like. And did he ever surprise me on what he really is? Totally different guy than what I thought, and how they're doing things and how they're building their own brand is great. So that would be my two favorite places. I like them. They have really opened their arms up and shared with us. So that second pour I got for us was this Knob Creek 12-year. That's only 100 proof.
Okay, so this is the same proof. Now, this is a relatively new bottle.
It's brand new. You know, I saw this in the store, and I actually called you up and said, "Hey, Jim, they got some of this on the shelf. Do you want a bottle?"
Yeah.
I actually called another guy, and he missed my call, and he called me back about an hour later, and he's like, "What did you need, man?" And I was like, "Too late now."
Yeah.
He's like, "You think I can get over there and get it?" And I was like, "Nah, they're probably out by now." It was right around 5:00 when I was going to work, and I stopped by there. But yeah, 12-year-old Knob Creek, something that you're not going to see. It's the blue label out there. So I'd say if it's on the shelf, $63.99 is what I got it at.
So let's go. There's a lot of people out there that haven't had this. Let's go ahead and go over the label specifics here.
So on the front, it does have their age statement, age 12 years, 100 proof. That's it's pretty.
Not a single barrel, it's just a small batch whiskey.
Yeah.
No special release, special markings, anything like that. Just
it doesn't even say small batch on it.
No.
Actually, it does. It says, maybe all of it small batch. Knob Creek's small batch, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey out of Claremont, Kentucky.
There you go.
Crafted for superior taste and smoothness. They put smoothness on the bottle. I like that.
Yeah. Same big black wax dip on top. It's tough to get through.
It is tough to get through.
You end up with black chunks of plastic all over your house.
Yeah. But that's their standard expression, small little bottle, skinny enough where a bartender can reach for it, I guess, and handle it. And I think it would still fit in a well, I guess, sideways. It'd take up more room than a standard bottle, though.
Yep. So, man, I'm getting a lot more fruit on this one than the last one. Kind of a dark fruit, definitely. Raisins.
Which you expect from that 12-year, right?
Yeah, but the same oak forward profile with that kind of nutty undertaste on it, or what do you call it? Underlying taste. Underlying taste, yeah. Taste, yeah.
Now I could drink this all day long, right? This would be a good bourbon to sip on, and
this is softer up front than the other one, isn't it? A little bit, not quite as peppery up on the front, a little bit more in the back.
So this is that white pepper I'm always talking about. It's not so peppery that it's overwhelming. It's going to bite you, punch you in the throat. It's just there. It's a nice, smooth finish. It's not too drying. Not as much oak as I thought it would have.
But the traditional caramel and brown sugar flavors are there. Not much in the way of baking spice, but a lot more of that dried raisin, dried plum, kind of darker fruit. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I like this one very well. This is good stuff.
So let's talk about, I've kind of turned this into interviewing you. That's a good deal. So out of all the bourbons you got to try, that's some stuff that you hadn't got to try yet, right, this year.
Yeah.
For the podcast. What was your favorite bourbon that you got to try?
Well, what was my knock me out of the park, kind of blow me away? I can't believe you just let me drink that.
Yeah.
It would definitely be the Old Forester 2020 birthday bourbon. I could not believe that. I was just bowled over by it.
Yeah, and that would be my number one too.
Yeah.
I'd never had it before, any birthday bourbon. So I was so shocked when she comes out of her office and that's what she's carrying and says, "Hey guys, I'm gonna let you try this," before anybody else in the world has tried it. Her and like 3 other people had tried it, and then me and you.
I think that's really special. We had that with the same with Mark and Sherry Carter. They came over to the house. We set up for a podcast interview there, and they broke out 3 number 1 bottles.
Her magic purse is what I call it.
Yeah.
Big leather magic purse she has.
So I would say that since we were drinking from freshly opened bottle number 1 of 3 different batches, we were probably amongst the very first to drink, their new batches that they're releasing of those. So it's always a treat to be amongst the first to try something. You get that first chance to sort of taste it and call out some notes and talk about it a little bit. And that's fun.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do that at a couple of different places. I got to do it down at Leaper's Fork.
Yep.
With their Tennessee whiskey they were going to release, and they'd pulled it that day and put it in a bottle for me. And, I got to taste that. And then Sam Rock did the same thing with his
bottled and bond. Yeah.
Bottled and bond,
which was absolutely delicious.
So it's just always amazing to me that we're getting to be the first people to sample stuff. And I just, I just feel so lucky that we're part of the podcast, that where we can go out there and we do get treated a little bit different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So how has your life changed since the podcast started?
Oh man.
Because I know things are not the same for you.
Well, I got 2 different seasons of life, I guess. I've got my winter season where I work night shift for a regular job, and then I got summer season where I'm working day shift. So I kind of switch between that, and I just got to I've got to kind of adjust to that with a podcast and stuff. But, I don't know. I've reached out to more people, and my network is built a little bit more. I had about, 600 friends on Facebook. I'm right up around 800 now, and I have an Instagram account. I didn't have an Instagram account before. I've learned so much about social media, and so many people have lent a hand to helping us out with our social media. I don't know if people know really kind of what behind the scenes when we're not on air, what parts of this podcast you take care of and what parts I take care of. And I mean, they may have an idea, but they might not know that, I kind of handle the podcast technical side of things. Sure.
The website, the podcast editing, the publishing of the podcast, the getting it out on all the different media networks, and, doing the audio editing and all that kind of stuff. And you, on the other hand, you're kind of you handle the public facing part of it. So you do all the social media, and you write the blogs, and you're the face that's out there. You're the guy that's kind of.
This is definitely not the face for radio. I'm just a big ugly mug.
But you're the one that's kind of interacting with our listeners.
Yeah, and I've tried to do that much more, and I've drug you into it a little bit. Try to drag you out of that dark room, I guess.
The dark room, the back room.
The back room,
studio,
and taking a photo once a day. So putting a photo once a day up on social media. I've learned that if you do not do that, then you end up, people forget about you really fast. So you almost have to put up a photo a day. That post on Instagram and Facebook takes anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes to do and do correctly. Instagram's a little bit different than Facebook, but you can share from Instagram over to your Facebook account. Not so many hashtags, so you have to go back. If you shared it, then you have to go back and delete hashtags off there, because some people get annoyed to that. And then Instagram doesn't have these private bourbon groups, and Facebook does, and I belong to about 30 of them. And I think some people get irritated that I post into every group, but what I always say is not everybody like me belongs to 30 different bourbon groups. So I want to get good content out there, and I feel like I've gotten a lot better at it. I'm coming up with better questions. Definitely have gotten way better with my photography, and I'm doing all my photography off a cell phone. Some people might not know that. But I spent a little bit of time
and I've
on there.
seen the Apple commercials where they're talking about, people are using their phones for all kinds of fancy photography now. So I think it's a good piece of photography equipment.
Yeah, and I'd probably like to get a bigger camera, but I got other hobbies I do. And this is still for me is a hobby. We don't make money off of this. We probably spend more money than we'd ever make off of the podcast. So, I do have a tripod, and I use that quite often. It allows me to do video shots. It allows us to go and take nice still photos and stuff where my hand's not shaking or something.
Yeah, I see when you set up that tripod. So you set up that tripods when you do them Instagram. What's it called? Interview? What's it? A live. Instagram live. You do Instagram live, and it's like you set up the camera. It's always like your bottles are the center of attention behind you. I'm like, Mike, get your head in the center of the screen, but no, you got them Weller bottles and everything sticking out. That looks pretty good.
Well, I think people want to see that we're actually drinking the bourbon, and I'm proud that we do that. I mean, drink our bourbon. It's not a collection. I had a signed bottle and I opened it the other day and I sipped from it, and then I sat there looking at it. And I probably ruined a $300 or $400 bottle of bourbon by drinking it, but I think that master distiller wanted that bottle to be drank, not set up on a shelf and be a collector's item. Because at some point I'm going to die and I'm going to pass away, and my son probably is the one. He's a bourbon drinker, and I think he would come over here and just, Vivian would say, hey, you can have all this bourbon. So yeah. What have you learned this past year? Have you learned a lot from the podcast?
I think I have. Yeah. So, you've mentioned many times how we're just amateurs. We're not professional tasters or bourbon drinkers or anything like that. But what I have learned is that, you know what you like, regardless of how advanced your palate is or how well you are at tasting bourbon and calling out notes. At the end of the day, if you like it or not. And nobody can tell you like something if you don't. So I've tasted some juice. Let's call it juice. I won't name any names. We've tasted some juice that doesn't hit the mark. And we've tasted some that are just out of this world. And, I think we're professional enough. We're able to say something good about just about anything we drink, because honestly, I don't think anything out there doesn't qualify to at least be a mixer. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, I said something about that the other day. Somebody asked a question on one of the Facebook groups, and they said, hey, what's your top dollar for a mixer? And I said $100. And so people got upset about that. And I said, hey, your whiskey your way, your bourbon your way. If I buy it, sometimes I want to experiment a little bit. Does it taste any better? But I've said many times, the cocktail was created to make whiskey taste better, right? For rot gut and stuff back in the roaring 20s when people were just making hooch.
Yep.
It was made to make stuff taste better. So, can you take something from the bottom of the shelf? Is it Pappy? That'd be sacrilegious probably. But even a Weller 12-year, would I pour that in a cocktail? No, I'm not going to pour that in a cocktail.
Yeah. Well, that choice can be made by the person that owns the bottle, right?
Yeah.
I think that for the most part, I've had some, look, we got a lot of bottles, Mike. Some of them are, I would say most of them are appreciated. There's a few of them that are not our favorites. But I can tell you right now that if I make a mule with something that's less than sipping whiskey, I drink the mule. It's fine. I don't have a problem with it. It may not be the best mule I've ever had, but it's all right. I mean, it's good.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to drain pour any whiskey. Never have, never will. I'm sorry.
I don't understand when people say that. They say they'll drain pour, make it into a cocktail.
Or give it away.
Give it away, cook with it, do all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah. Inject it in that pork butt. It'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, I do that.
Put it in chili.
Some people would probably disagree with me. They say there's whiskey's not good with beef or pork, or some people agree with me. Some people disagree. I use a lot of whiskey for cooking, for apple pies, and to inject in a pork butt. I use a cup of barbecue sauce to a cup of bourbon and mix that together to inject it in my pork butt. I've made all kinds of different stuff with it. We had a bourbon themed night here one night, and I just, everybody had to cook with bourbon. So I think there's different things to do.
So what have I learned? So back to let me take this last 10 minutes of conversation, sort of narrow it down. What have I learned? Every distiller out there that's making whiskey is putting his love into it, putting his effort and his sweat into it. And, it may not match what I like to drink, but I still got respect for what they're doing. It may not be a bottle that I want on my bar, but I still got respect for what they're doing. I think there's people don't realize how important the cocktail industry is and how important it is to have bourbons and American whiskeys and rye whiskeys that are made specifically for mixing purposes.
So let's do that because I got another question on this half for you.
Yeah.
So the next thing we got up for our first half here is a Knob Creek single barrel. It's at 115 proof. It's a single barrel select, so it is a single barrel.
And this is a bourbon too.
This is actually a rye.
This is a rye. Okay,
the straight rye whiskey. So
all right.
Go to that next.
So we're just working our way up by proof.
Yeah.
And this is 115 proof. It doesn't have an age statement on it, but I would imagine it's a little bit younger than 9 years. But maybe not. Maybe it's a 9-year whiskey. It is 115 proof, 57.5% alcohol. This is a barrel select, and I can't read the label from here, so I'm not going to bother. But Mike, let's check it out.
So this right here is like a Fruit Loop cereal to me. It's got that sweetness in the nose.
Yeah, it does have a sweet nose to it. Fruit Loops. You know, I am getting a little bit of Fruit Loops. It's so funny how somebody can like cause you to have that memory. The funny thing is I was just fixing Fruit Loops this morning for my grandson, and I could smell it. I didn't eat it myself, but I could smell the Fruit Loops, and that does bring back that little memory from just this morning. I'm also getting kind of a little bit of mint and dill, but it's just a hint on the dill, but mostly mint, just a little bit.
I could get some Lifesaver candies in there too. Maybe that Lifesaver or like breath mint. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I get, I guess.
I almost say a little bit of green grass, kind of a little bit of green grass in there, fresh cut grass.
Well, I will tell you, when I sipped on it, it's got some pepper on it.
Does it?
On that back end, it kind of bites a little bit, maybe a little cayenne pepper.
Boy, that's sweet.
Sweetness on the front end.
Yep.
And maybe not so much now that not as peppery now as that second.
Compared to that bourbon, it's a bit sweeter. I think.
Oh yeah, it's definitely sweeter than the bourbon. So what was your favorite guest that we've had on?
Oh, you and your favorites. Let's see. I haven't had time to think about how to answer this one. I didn't even know this question was coming. Who's been my favorite guest? Definitely Jackie Zykin's up there. Between her, Elizabeth McCall, I like the ladies, I guess. Yeah, both of those were great interviews. Who else? Bo Garrett. He was a lot of fun. David Jennings, a lot of fun.
So I have two favorites, I guess. Three really. I guess because you named three, I'll name three. So Dustin Collins.
There you go.
I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing him, and that he played live music on our show for us. And he was just about as humble of a person that I've ever met. And you could just feel his life story coming out of him. I thoroughly enjoyed that interview with him. Peggy No Stevens, to
Definitely,
me.
Yeah.
Kind of sitting there with royalty with her, I felt, she's been through the business. She knows what she's doing. She's written books. She's just released a new book. The nicest lady you'll ever meet. That, to me, what Southern Charm is all about is Peggy No Stevens.
Yeah.
And then once again, the whole team down at Leaper's Fork, how they treat us. And I wish you would have got to go down there. They just, Lee Kennedy and Matt and April, they just treated us great, and everybody does. And I don't think we've ever walked into a place and we've gotten treated badly.
Yeah, I think that's why these favorite questions are so hard for me, because, honestly, they're all special in one way or another. Yeah, and that's kind of why, I say it's hard for me to choose favorites, because each and every show that we've done, and I'm not trying to be kind of politically correct here and not upset anybody. I'm just saying that each and every show that we've done has been special in its own way. And whether it was a musical artist we had on, or we had an author on, or we've had somebody in the food industry, or a chef, and we've had people from all those places, every one of those interviews has been cool in its own way. Really cool in its own way. And, the fact that we've gotten to sit down with these people and drink bourbon with them and talk about what they do is just friggin' awesome. I mean, it's so much fun. So much fun. And I've got a few favorites, but they're all cool.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way. I mean, how could you not, like Steve Coombs, sitting in a speakeasy with him, or going up to Hotel Tango and talking to a disabled veteran and that's started his own business up, or Wilderness Trail, that not only did we go over there and do an interview, but they also invite us back to do the Kentucky State Barbecue Festival. And then we get to meet this monstrous barbecue personality, Big Mo Cason.
Big Mo Cason. What a huge name and what a huge personality to have on the show. You know, we had Whiskey River on, and then a few months later, they show up on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
I mean, so cool. So cool.
The trips we've got to take to, and we'll talk about that in our second half. The trips we've been on and the road trips we've been, the true Bourbon Road has been great. But we'll talk about that on the second half. We'll finish this up right here.
Take a little break,
and we'll come back and we'll talk about that.
Sounds good. We would like to thank Tommy and Gwen Mitchell from Logheads Home Center for supporting this episode of the Bourbon Road. Logheads Home Center, nestled in the hills of Kentucky, is an industry leader in building handcrafted rustic furniture. Family owned and operated, they take pride in offering only the very best for their customers. The Logheads, and that's what they like to call themselves, are skilled woodcrafters who are passionate about creating rustic furniture for people who appreciate the beauty of natural wood. Owners Tommy and Gwen don't just sell the rustic lifestyle, they live it. And you can be sure that Logheads furniture will always be handcrafted in Kentucky by artisans who embrace the simple way of life. Logheads rustic furniture is made from northern white cedar, a sustainable wood that's naturally rot and termite resistant. Its beauty and quality will add warmth to your earthy lifestyle for generations to come. Be sure to check out everything they have to offer at logheadshomecenter.com. And while you're at it, give Tommy and Gwen a shout on Facebook or Instagram at Logheads Home Center. So we were back from our break, and Mike, what do we have in our glass now?
So now we're drinking the Knob Creek Single Barrel Reserve. It's their 9-year that you can almost buy it on any shelf.
It's 120 proof, right?
120 proof, small batch is what they say on the front of it. So I think they put it all there. And we talked about that label.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you read a label and the label says single barrel and small batch are both listed on the label, it kind of makes you go, what?
Yeah, it's confusing.
But I guess a single barrel is the smallest batch, right?
I guess.
And maybe Knob Creek's just trying to get the most use out of their labels.
Well, if they could reuse that right there, I guess, on another label, then that makes sense to me. But they'd have to be 120 proof, though.
Yeah. I don't know. Some people might say, no, it's not a batch unless you mix it. But, you know, they're doing their thing.
They are. And they obviously are selling plenty of whiskey out there, right? Mm-hmm. They're not hurting for money, I don't think.
Yeah.
Of course, right now, I think everybody's probably hurting for a little bit of money, but I don't think they're hurting at all. They're going to survive this right here.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's check it out. Oh, that smells a lot like, but there's a lot more caramel in this one.
Yeah.
Almost butterscotch.
Butter pecan ice cream.
Yeah, I'm getting the butter on the nose, no doubt about it. Yeah, I would say this one leans butterscotch a little bit. Not real sweet on the nose, but it's got that butterscotchy kind of, I don't know. There's a chemical that is butterscotch. I don't know what that chemical is, but if Shane was here or Pat, they'd probably tell us.
They'd break it down for us.
Yeah, they'd tell us what that was. Acetyl or something. I don't know.
Sweet on the nose, but it's sweet on the taste too.
Yeah, but I think it's sweeter than the other bourbons, but it's not as sweet as that rye we just had.
It's every bit of 120 proof though.
Yeah, that's a good bourbon.
That'll give you that old Kentucky hug.
Yeah, it's a spicy bourbon. But that's not rye spice to me. That's barrel spice.
That is, there's a total difference. That's that warm spice that goes down in your chest and kind of warms you up.
Yep.
It's not that bite on the tongue.
So we've worked our way up here from 100 proof to 115, and now we're at 120. We're still on our way up, though, right?
Oh yeah, I think we got two more, a little bit more peppery.
Yeah, I really like this one a lot. But it's got a lot more spice on the back end. The finish on it is very long on this one. It really sticks there. It's got a little bit of a sour back end on it for me.
Nah, see, I don't get that. I mean, that's our two different palates and stuff. Yeah. It has a long finish on it to me. It's not drying. It's I get that aftertaste of just sweetness. It's I could drink this. That's a good.
I want to say sweet tart. No, made tart on the back end.
Yeah, that sweet tart.
Sweet tart. Yeah. I said sour, but I mean sweet tart. Yeah.
Or even a sour gummy worms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We're always that candy. I think both of us are.
Yeah, that's a great bourbon. I tell you what. That's something that I need to have on my
bar shelf.
Yeah, on my bar. No doubt about it.
So when you first started the podcast, and what inspired you? Who inspired you to start this out?
Well, somewhere back, I got into bourbon. It's been a while ago, but I got into bourbon, and it was actually Weller 12 that really opened my eyes. I mean, I've been drinking bourbon for a lot of years. I actually was drinking 80s Wild Turkeys just because that's when I was drinking whiskey, was in the 80s. But Weller 12 kind of opened my eyes, kind of said, wow, there's some really great stuff out there. And, it's somewhere along the way I started kind of searching out more information on it, try to become a little more knowledgeable. And I started watching a little bit of YouTube. I think I started with YouTube before podcasts, and It's Bourbon Night with Chad and Sarah was kind of something I latched onto early on, and I watched them for a while, and I went to one of their user meets, and I was kind of, in their chat rooms when they were online live, and kind of really enjoyed that. And then Perry from This Is My Bourbon podcast, started listening to him because he was on their show every now and then. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of whiskey podcasts bourbon podcasts and whiskey tubers, they call them on YouTube. There were a few. And along came a fellow out of Columbus, Ohio named Jason Calori. And he had a show called The Mash and Drum. I started watching him, and we became friends. He came down and hung out with me here in Kentucky, and we spent some time together. And somewhere along the way, I said, you know what? I think I might like to do a podcast. This is kind of cool stuff. And I think I can do a little bit different take on it and just have a good time, appreciate, life on the bourbon trail kind of. And that's when I called up Randy and said, Randy, let's do this thing. And he said, I'm in, let's do it. And that's kind of where it started. But yeah, my inspirations were, This Is My Bourbon podcast, It's Bourbon Night, and The Mash and Drum. I'd say those three kind of really, there's others.
Sure.
But those are the three that kind of inspired me to do this.
Three very successful.
All three very successful. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think whenever you look at somebody that's very educational and knowledgeable in the bourbon game, as far as bourbon media or bourbon social media, those three are right up there in the top and stuff. Right.
And they've been around a while, and they've all got quite a number of episodes that have been recorded, and they've got staying power. They've got their system down. They've got a good program, and they keep it going, and they keep their audience waiting for the next episode to come out.
Now, those are the three you listed, are all, besides the couple, but they're married to each other, correct?
They are now. Yeah, Chad and Sarah are now. Now, when they started their show, they were just friends.
And they got married.
And yeah, it blossomed into something else later. So yeah, no, they didn't start as a couple.
But I'd say the other two are just them by themselves.
Yeah. So Perry's got a couple of co-hosts that come on his show as well. Kurt and the Swan, they're on the show with him. And so the trio, those three kind of format the show. Now, Perry did probably his first 100 episodes by himself with guests sometimes. But now he usually got somebody else on there with him. I
think that's for us. That's might be one of the most challenging things for us to do is both of us have a farm. Both of us, you have two successful businesses, really three, full time. I work full time. We both are married. So we're juggling like 6 or 7 different schedules. Then you should throw a podcast schedule in there.
Yeah, the last thing we needed was something else to work on, right?
Yeah, and we both have different hobbies. I like to hunt. That's a whole different season by itself, and very sociable person. So I like to go out with my friends all the time, and that includes you guys. We try to hang out as much as possible. But trying to fit a podcast schedule in there and then scheduling that with the distillers or with guests it can be a nightmare sometimes. And we did have a whole stack of episodes stacked up, and now we're kind of out of those. And
well, that's kind of funny you mentioned that, because you and I were supposed to go to Mexico on a joint vacation with our wives. And so we said, you know what? We don't want to worry about this podcast thing while we're down there. We might record an episode while we're down there, but we don't want to worry about it. So let's record 6 or more. We had more than that, I think, episodes in advance, have them all in the library waiting to release on schedule. And let's go enjoy ourselves in Mexico and not be worried about coming back and having to schedule podcasts and stuff. And then came coronavirus. So anyway, we have been releasing those episodes. We obviously were not able to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
We had to cancel our vacation, and we're sequestered just like everybody else. And we've been releasing those episodes on a regular basis. I'm sure everybody's been like, what the heck? It sounds like they're going places and doing stuff. But though that was all done before Corona hit.
Yeah. I guess, what's the 3 Ps, right?
Yeah.
What's that? Prior planning, preparation. I don't know, heck, what I'm saying. The 3 Ps of life, preparation, planning, and
performance.
I don't know. Creates better performance, I guess. Yeah. So to me, that's what we were doing. We made sure we had a plan in place. We made sure we prepped for everything, and we were good to go for a while. Now we're back to that. It seems like square one, which we're not. Trust me, we're getting some guests lined up right now as we speak.
Well, last week's episode we had on Spirits of French Lick, and that was the first time that we had done an actual audio interview using that new software. Mm-hmm. We had done an actual live event with it before, but we had never done an audio interview before using it. And we learned a few things. The audio wasn't the best. I mean, it was fine. You could listen to the episode and enjoy it. It was fine. But we learned that, you cannot sacrifice using good equipment to do a recording. You can't just throw on your AirPods and do it. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Me and you sat out in your driveway and talked about that. If we had to do it again, how, just try to make everything better. If we do have to do it again, then we're both using the same headphone or earbuds, and trying to figure out how to get the guest to have the right audio equipment. It was super difficult.
Yeah.
But hey, I wanted to move on to this next.
Oh wait. So final word on that single barrel.
I drank it down.
That's some good stuff. That's really good. So anybody who's listening out there, Knob Creek Single Barrel Select, 9-year-old, 120 proof, rock solid. No doubt.
I'd get a thumbs up from both of us, I think. That's a great sweet bourbon. Not too much spice, but it is 120 proof. It'll kick you in the shorts if you try to sit down and drink a bottle of it.
So what's next, Mike?
So I kind of mess this up. This one, we're going to step down just a notch back to 119.6 proof. This is the cast strength rye whiskey from Knob Creek. It was a limited release. It's barreled in 2009 and released in 2018.
Okay, so this is a 2018 bottle. This one's been sitting on the shelf here for a while now. It's not something that you're going to probably go out and find on the shelf right away, but it is a cast strength rye from Knob Creek.
Well, they do have, I saw last year, 2019. So is it going to be every year?
Right. But this 2018 bottle, you're not going to be able to get. Yeah.
Yeah. So this will be something a little bit different that we can pour. I'll pour here.
Now, I still have a memory of that single barrel select rye whiskey we just had a few minutes ago. I can still remember that sweet, little bit of mint, a little bit of dill, and what I said, fresh cut grass.
Fresh cut grass. So this ain't a single barrel though. This is a very large.
This is a batch.
Yeah, it's not even a small.
And
this
is cast strength.
Yeah, so we're moved up in proof.
There's a little more mint on this one. It might just be because of the upped proof. But it's definitely sweet, just like their other rye.
That's that cast strength. That rye is powerful.
Yeah,
that's not my jam right there. I mean, I might even mix this.
I'm getting a little bit of anise in it, a little bit of licorice.
I can taste a licorice in it. Even black licorice, just not any kind of licorice candy. I could get that.
Yeah, I've said it before. When you go into like an Indian restaurant, and you eat Indian food, and as you're checking out at the bar there, at the cash register, they got that little dish full of seeds that you can reach down and grab and to clean your palate. It's that anise, that anise seed or whatever it is.
That's some definitely, like I said, powerful stuff. And it's a little lower proof than that 120, but it just has a little bit more bite to it to me. Now it's sweetness on the back end.
And this is a 9-year rye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this would be a rye whiskey for maybe some of our new listeners. It's more than 51% or more than 50%.
And Knob Creek is going to be what they call a Kentucky rye. It's going to be not too much more than 50% rye.
Between 50 and 60.
And then some corn. Yeah, Knob Creek, they don't release their mash bills, but the second flavoring grain in this case is going to be corn. And that's where that sweetness is coming from. And then I don't know, what the percentages are in the mash bill, but this is definitely a sweet rye whiskey, Kentucky style. And I think it's pretty good.
So some of the places we've collaborated with, been pretty awesome, right? We've had Dad's Drinking Bourbon.
Yep.
Big John. If you're out there, shout out to you, man. We had Jason from the Mash and Drum.
Absolutely.
Beating on his drums all the time. He's an actual drummer.
He is a drummer. Yeah.
We had three fellows from old Bourbon Lynn's, young cats.
Yeah.
I'd call them.
Bourbon Lynn's collaboration. We did. We had a third pour where we had YouTubers on. And we had Jason from the Mash and Drum on. We had Scott on from My Bourbon Journey, and we had Dan on from Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. And that's a episode that we had where we did a bottle challenge. Everybody brought a bottle. They were poured secretly by the ladies into numbered flasks, and then we tasted through them and we voted as a crew on what we thought was the best. And we had a prize for that. And that was an epic night. It was so much fun. We've got to do that again. But anyway, yeah. So these collaborations, I think in general, are a lot of fun, and they bring together listeners from different, everybody's got their followers.
Yeah. We had Mark Rucker from really, at the time, he was an Instagrammer.
Yeah.
Big following on Instagram. And now everybody knows him as The Bourbon Life. And now he has his own podcast. To me, that would have been a collaboration with us both and stuff, an Instagrammer.
Yep.
So I think each one of those teams, they've all taught us something. They've each brought something to the table that said, hey, we could do this different.
Yep.
And they've give us inspiration too. We might see them doing something, and we're trying to come up with ideas that are different, but sometimes their ideas are so good we want to run with that idea.
And these collaborations, we always say rising tide raises all ships, right? People hear us say that all the time.
I bet I've messaged 1,000 people and said that whenever they liked our stuff or they thanked us for likes. I say that every time. Rising tides raise all ships.
So when we have somebody from another podcast on, we have somebody on from a YouTube channel, and we do a collaboration show together, we both get a lift out of that, right? We both win, and the listeners win because they get exposed to something they might not have heard before. And we've heard it so many times. You know, we've had these collaborations, and one of our listeners will say, "I am so glad you did that because I didn't even know Jason from the Mash and Drum existed. Now I'm watching his channel too, and it's awesome." We're adding to their library of things that they listen to and watch, and it's awesome. And we've got some more things planned, right?
Oh yeah, we actually have a really big show that'll be coming up in the next month. That'll involve 5 or 6 different podcasts and maybe a YouTuber here or there. So history wise, have you learned anything new about bourbon or whiskey? I mean, we've had a lot of history buffs on, right?
Yeah, we have. You know, one of the things that I learned, one of the things that still surprises me even today, is the scale at which they produced in the late 1800s, how big those operations were. You know, you think about Jack Daniels today, and you think about Jim Beam, you know, and you think about Brown Foreman, you know, with Old Forester or Woodford Reserve. You think about the size of these, and Heaven Hill. You know, you think about the size of these distilleries, and, you know, Heaven Hill's producing 1,300 barrels a day, right? And you think, man, these guys are really producing a lot of booze, right? They're not even close to what was being done.
Yeah, what Nelson Greenbrier was doing back in 1800s.
Yeah, the late 1800s. They say the average adult male, and an adult male back then was 15 years old or older, but the average adult male drank 18 gallons of whiskey a year.
That's a lot of whiskey.
Yeah. Now, we weren't the population that we are today, but they were saying the average adult male. So population doesn't matter, right? It's the average adult male.
But also soda wasn't around. So, you know, you usually had probably buttermilk or you had some just water to drink. That was it. Or you drank some spirits.
But I would like to know what that number is today. You know, somebody out there probably knows, you know, what the average adult male drinks in gallons of whiskey or bourbon a year right now. I would love to know what that number is today. I don't think it's 18 gallons.
The average person probably drinks less than 2 gallons.
Probably so. So when we look at, you know, you say, what in history surprised me the most, or what do I remember? The fact that when you walk into the distillery, the new distillery out there in the Castle and Key that used to be the Taylor Distillery.
Yeah, the H. Taylor
and you go in there and you see the old equipment, and the size of it is just huge, and it's and how they were moving that many barrels a day and doing it down the Kentucky River just amazes me.
On flat bottom boats at that.
Yeah,
that is a pretty amazing thing. The things I've been amazed that we just got the doors open to us. Like we've had Michael Veach on, that just is he's a history book himself. And then we had Peggy No Stevens on. She's been in the business forever. She's just full of knowledge on the bourbon history. Steve Coombs, the author of Bourbon Justice.
Yep. And you know, Brian Hara with Bourbon Justice and the books that he wrote, you know, just so much history being brought up, and I mean, just amazing stuff.
So we were trying to bring that history to the bourbon road. Even myself, I'm always researching something, you know, the back history to JTS Brown, or the back history to Wild Turkey. You guys had Rare Bird 101 on. Yeah. He is just full of knowledge with
Wild Turkey,
right? Yep. Even Bo telling the inside stories of giving tours there. But all that back history to me is super fascinating, and the rich history that Kentucky and Tennessee both have together is just, it amazes me. And there's so much more to learn there stuff. You know, when people come to Louisville area or to Kentucky, it's rich in history with bourbon.
Absolutely. How much time do we have left?
This is 22 minutes, so we'll do our second.
So we got one more pour after this?
Yep.
Okay.
Be done.
All right. So, Mike, any last thoughts on this? I know you said it's not on your bucket list. So
yeah,
let's remind the user, we would talk about a lot of stuff. We're still drinking the Knob Creek Cask Strength Rye 2018 release.
119.6 proof. Couldn't get it right to 120, could they?
No.
Probably just put a little bit too much water in it. But I would probably mix this. I hate to say that, but I would probably mix that.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be for me. I'm not going to drain pour it. We talked about that. I'm never going to drain pour something.
Yeah.
I'd mix it.
Yep.
I bet I'd make one badass.
I want to tell you what. I'm going to tell
rye mimosa.
I'm going to tell you what we were drinking this weekend. Chad and I, you know Chad.
Yeah.
Chad and I were drinking. You remember that 8 and Sand from MGP?
Yeah.
We've been drinking that 8 and Sand, and he's been having bourbon and Cokes, and I've been having mules.
There ain't nothing wrong with that.
There you go. 8 and Sand. Now, 8 and Sand, for anyone who doesn't know, is a blended bourbon whiskey from MGP. So blended meaning that there's other stuff in it other than bourbon, right? Probably some cane sugar whiskey or something like that. It's got some bourbon in it because MGP, everybody knows MGP makes bourbon.
Well, it could just be American whiskey in there too.
Could be some American whiskey in there. Who knows what it is? They don't tell the whole story. But that one for me, I didn't personally think it was a sipping whiskey. But you know what? It made some fine mules as far as I'm concerned.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think I've got some cabin steel underneath my counter, and every once in a while I'll break that out and make myself a old Kentucky meal with it. And hey,
but that's primarily for barbecuing, right?
No, I use Old Crow for barbecue. I try to stick to that. It's worked every time. But now that I do have some bottles that are bottom shelf, Vivian says, "Hey, I want to make something. Let's pick a bottle."
Yeah.
She made some banana nut bread the other day that she put bourbon in, and man, it was awesome.
Good.
Now she used Buffalo Trace for that. That was the first bottle I could see, and she was on me.
So we got one pour left.
One last pour.
All right, Mike, what is it?
Whew, this is a big bottle right here.
Yeah.
So this is the Knob Creek 25th anniversary edition. It's a single barrel. It's 120.9 proof. So we're stepping nothing in the 130s though. So not too high.
But that one was picked by wasn't that one picked by Fred?
It does. I mean, it says it's master distiller. I don't think it says on there who it was picked by, but I think it was picked by.
I mean, it's kind of it's a celebration bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've had this bottle for a little while, but it's still sitting at about 80% full, isn't it?
Yeah. You haven't sipped out of it.
Well, because it's kind of a special bottle. I just visit it on occasions. I've got a number of bottles like that I think we had that live event where we had the Bourbon Roadies on, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the bottles that I sipped on that night. And I brought it to the interview with Bo Garrett, but we ended up drinking some other things that night.
Yeah, I think he brought Decades that night.
We had some turkey products, yeah.
Which is, there's no surprise there. He's a turkey guy.
Right. All right. So I'm nosing this bad boy.
You know what I get? I get barbecue sauce. I don't know why.
All right,
maybe molasses.
I want to say something to you on that because you get me on the chart hot dogs, and I'm going to get you on barbecue sauce. Yeah, this one reminds me a little bit of the 12-year.
Maybe it's that molasses,
sorghum. It's sorghum, very sweet, brown sugary kind of sweetness. And again, on this one, I think what's reminded me here is that little bit of like dried, like raisin or plum, kind of prune. I don't know, prune, rump, but dried plums, dried raisins, grapes.
Yeah.
And this one's got a little bit of a kind of a dusty note on it. When I say a dusty note, it's because I do get a little bit of that butterscotch, just a hint of butterscotch on it. And I get a little bit on this one. Not like that 12-year, though.
It's sweet.
Yep.
A lot of pepper on this one.
Yeah, this one is definitely a lot more spicy.
I don't mind it, but this is our 6th pour too, though, so I don't mind it so much. It's a little different. Each one of these had its own character to it, though.
Yeah, so we've been wading in Knob Creek here for a little bit, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had Knob Creek on a lot. I don't even know if we had it on the show. I'd have to really look back and see that if we had drank any Knob Creek, maybe somebody had brought one to a barrel or to a bottle challenge. And that was my first time on a podcast. Was you guys invited me to be a guest. And I think it was under $20 or something.
Bottles under $20 challenge.
$20, $25, somewhere in there.
So we like to do bottle challenges where everybody brings a bottle. The bottles are obscured. Nobody knows what they are.
Yeah.
And we all drink from them, and then we pick a winner. And how'd you do that night, Mike?
I think I got 3rd place. I think you and Randy cheated me. And we had Brian Hyatt was there with me too. And he's not related. We're not related to each other.
No, he's HYATT. You're HIATT.
Yeah. So we both came on there, and I was trying to be a comic that night. I brought old Fighting Cock with me. Yeah. And I'd actually did my research on it and stuff, and I learned a lot before I came on the show and stuff. But I thoroughly enjoyed myself that night. And then you guys had said, hey, Randy's moving. Would you like to be a co-host? I think you and Randy had asked me afterwards, what could we do better on the show? And I felt like I was going to hurt somebody's feelings or something. I was like, God dang, these guys are asking me this. And the only thing I said is let's be humorous and, just be transparent to people who we really are. And I'm not braggadocious or anything like that, I guess is the word. I don't know if braggadocious is the word, but just who I am. I wear sweatpants and a t-shirt at home and mow my grass with my dog on my lawnmower and just that kind of a guy.
I think, if we had to summarize what we would like people to think about the Bourbon Road, this is my perspective. If somebody's listening to the Bourbon Road, I'd like them to think these guys are not pretentious. They're not trying to pretend that they know a lot about whiskey, because we don't. We're not trying to pretend that we're able to pick notes out of whiskey like some sommelier or something. We can't. Whenever we call out tasting notes on a whiskey, it's because it's bringing up that memory of something that we've had. In your case, a few minutes ago, it was
Fruit Loops,
Fruit Loops or barbecue sauce or whatever. And for me, I've called out charred hot dogs and whorehound candies and, whatever it is. We're just like anybody out there, regardless of where you are on your bourbon venture, you know what you like and you know what you don't like.
I think that time, if you've been drinking whiskey for a while, you obviously know what you like, but I'd say, hey, we also want people to go out there and try new stuff and try these. I couldn't say enough about craft distilleries and how much I've learned about whiskey from these craft guys they're trying new stuff. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but they're trying to make it run a little smoother. Yeah.
I would say in this year since we've been doing it, and probably a year before that, maybe 2 of drinking bourbon. I don't chase bottles anymore. I haven't chased a bottle in a long time. Not that I wouldn't like to get a bottle of something here and there, a bottle of Pappy or something like that. I think I would, but I don't stand in lines. I don't get in lotteries. I don't chase bottles anymore. There's too much out there that's special. It's just sitting on the shelf that you don't realize. There's other things out there from these craft distilleries that are yet to be discovered. In some cases, it's young. Let's be fair. But a lot of times when I'm drinking these young whiskeys, I can almost taste what they're going to be a little bit. And I look forward to it. I don't mind drinking a young whiskey. I'm not saying it's best part of my day. But a lot of times I can taste that whiskey and go, yeah, it's young right now, but I can see that this is going to be something special in a year or two. If and I tell you what, Bluegrass Distillers, let's talk about those guys again. Their 4-year-old stuff, it's spot on.
I think if you, let's say me and you did a little time traveling, right?
Yeah.
And let's say we go back to the 1800s and we were able to visit Jack Daniels when they first opened up, Jim Beam. Let's say we could have went to Four Roses, and we could have went to E.H. Taylor.
Yeah.
And we tasted all their stuff when they first started, that first 2 to 3 years.
I bet they were shipping some young barrels. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
And then you come to today and you compare the two.
Oh, yeah.
I would almost imagine that today's stuff is just that much better. Nobody starts out 100% perfect. It's kind of like life, you gain that experience over time and stuff. Yeah. We were all 18 years old at one time, starting out as young adults, and probably didn't know nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Mike, we get out of this whole COVID-19 thing and we start to get out on the road again and visit some distilleries and talk to people. I think 2020 is going to be a great year.
I think it will be. I think hopefully you're going to see some stuff from us. Hopefully you'll see a little bit of merchandise this year. Hopefully you'll see some picks. I would be excited to do maybe a pick or two this year from the Bourbon Road. And I think we have our Bourbon Roadies. I think we have enough Bourbon Roadies. We're at around 300 in our private Facebook group. So
yeah, let's talk about that. So where are we at on Instagram?
Instagram, we're going to break 5,000, I think, this week.
And Facebook?
Right around 3,000.
And then Roadies, how many? 300? 300. And then what's our reach on a weekly basis? How many people do we reach?
I think in a week, really in a monthly basis on Facebook, we're reaching about 88,000 people.
Okay.
That's somebody's, they're interacting with us. And that's a lot of people to be interacting with. That's a small city, I think.
Yeah. And we've actually been now the #1 spirits podcast on iTunes multiple times this year.
Yeah.
And we're not there all the time. It's like the music charts. You don't stay at the top very long, but we have some ups and downs, and we've been the #1 spirits podcast on numerous occasions, and we certainly expect to be there again. And we appreciate all the listeners that get us there. No doubt about it.
That's who gets us there. If people wouldn't listen, we wouldn't be there. And I couldn't be thankful enough for those guys. And we got 37 reviews on Apple iTunes, all great reviews of us and stuff. People want to hear about history. They just want to hear us talk about bourbon. And I think that's what we're doing.
Non-pretentious bourbon bullshitters,
We're definitely not bourbon reviewers.
All right, Mike. Well, why don't you take us out?
So, we just talked about it. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at the Bourbon Road. You can go on our website, read our blog, thebourbonroad.com. You could ask to join our private Facebook group. It's called the Bourbon Roadies. We have a lot of great people in there. We've had some guests in there. April
Weller. Yeah, April Weller.
April Cantrell Weller's a friend in there. Lisa Wicker. I think Steve Coombs in there. Pat Heist from Wilderness Trail. We've had some great people in there, and they come in there and talk to our listeners. We have some great listeners in there. And actually, one of our listeners was a guest on the show, Jason Waller. He is one of our moderators now, and he's been a great help welcoming new roadies. So,
and Mike, if somebody wants to reach out to you on Instagram,
at One Big Chief.
Big Chief.
Probably see the famous dog Woodrow on there quite often.
And I'm Jay Shannon 63, and we are out on this show. But I tell you what, guys, we got a big year coming up. 2020 is going to be pretty awesome, and we hope you listen to us and tell your friends about us and join the Bourbon Roadies.
Yeah.
And we'll see you down the Bourbon Road. We do appreciate all of our listeners, and we'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with us here on the Bourbon Road. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and if so, we would appreciate if you'd subscribe and rate us a 5-star with a review on iTunes. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the Bourbon Road. That way you'll be kept in the loop on all the Bourbon Road happenings. You can also visit our website at thebourbonroad.com to read our blog, listen to the show, or reach out to us directly. We always welcome comments or suggestions, and if you have an idea for a particular guest or topic, be sure to let us know. And again, thanks for hanging out with us.